Hi there, welcome back to the Conductors podcast, and I'm your host, Chao and Ting. I'm so excited to welcome my guest today, Nicole, who I've been following for all the years, who is the first person that I reached out when I was a social media newbie. Know nothing about anything that a musician probably should know, but I'm so glad to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I asked this question to all my guests. So before we started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you get to where you are?
Of course. So, my background is in flute. Actually, I am a flutist. I do still perform. I actually was in Florida last month for a week performing with an orchestra, but primarily what I do now is marketing, which obviously completely different. You're definitely usually
Eh,
get the question like, "Oh, like how'd you get into that from flute?" Um, but as we all know, as musicians, I mean, generally, we are always going to be our own best advocates, right? We are going to be the ones booking a lot of our concerts, doing fundraising, doing grant writing, commissioning new music, blah, 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 putting together our tours. And so, when I was in school, when I was doing my master's, actually, I was running a woodwind quintet and we did all of those things. And I really loved the admin side of things, but I didn't really realize at the time that what I was doing was actually marketing and marketing the group and, putting all of this stuff together. But anyway, after I graduated, we all know how hard it is to get a job in quotes, right? In music. So had to go to the 9 to 5 route, but I was doing marketing and that as well. So was doing that for a while and just kept seeing results and eventually was like, nah, like why am I doing this to help people that I don't really care about? I would rather use this to help people that I actually want to support them and want to help them grow their businesses and do what they want to do. So I left and started doing that. And now I work primarily with other musicians and helping them be able to get their names out there and market themselves and book their own concerts, create their own careers, businesses. Yeah, and that's what I get to do.
This is so exciting. And yes, I know I got connected to you through actually another flute friend in Costa So like I knew your father's, but that's so cool that you're still performing. So tell us a little bit about your company because I know a lot of people start as a startup or like doing one thing, but you actually have employee. That's something like how many people do you manage and how many clients? What do you mainly primarily do?
Yeah, so I kind of have two sides to my business. My personal side of things is doing coaching, consulting, and I have some digital courses that are like, hey, you want to learn how to do all of this stuff yourself? Here's everything that you need to know. Um, but the primary portion is my agency and our media. And yeah, I have a full team on that. We have oh my gosh, how many people? 4? 4 yeah, 4 people. We have a web designer, graphic designer, conversion copywriter, and a social media manager. So, yeah, we do all of those things, and, yeah, also a few of us are photographers as well, so it's pretty full service. We do a lot of, branding, brand design, graphic design, building websites is primarily what we do, branding and websites. We do a lot of copywriting, email writing, email sequences, email funnels, social media writing, managing people's social media accounts, brand photography, product photography, all the things.
This might be an innocent question, but to you, what is different between PR and marketing? Because there are some PR firms, and I've talked to some publicists. Um, I don't really know the difference, honestly, but it seems like what you do is a little different, but with some overlapping.
Yeah, that is a really good question, and I think super important for people to know because they're two very different things. Yeah,
Yeah.
PR, marketing, sales, they're all related, but they're all very different, and people will have their different specialties. PR is going to be when people are going out and, writing your press release and they're getting it published for you, or say reaching out to podcasts and pitching you for podcast interviews and getting you booked for those, or they're sending the releases out to different magazines and getting, oh, like so and so is going to be at your concert to critique it for the New York Times or whatever. Publicists, they're the people that have like their little, their little black book, their little Rolodex of all the contacts and the people who, write for magazines and press, right? So they're the people that call them
Digital.
and they're like, hey, we have such and such going on. You should come check this out. That's pretty much what
Right.
press is, PR, publicity. Marketing is more, I don't wanna say more intentional, but it's a bit more strategic in the sense that it's, like, instead of kind of casting this wide net and like, "Oh, we're gonna send out all of these press releases and hopefully somebody will pick it up and publish it," whatever, whatever, right? The way that I view marketing is more so like, "I'm gonna take this into my own hands, and this is the actual goal and the result that I want, so now I'm going to develop a plan to go make that happen." Right? So sometimes it might include doing some publicity or getting press releases, but usually it's a lot of, doing social media, stuff like that, and actually going out and like building your own audience. So that way, when you have something you want to sell, whether it's a new CD or a concert ticket, whatever, whatever, you can literally go tell your audience and be like, hey guys, I have this new thing, blah, blah, blah. And then people go buy it, which is ideal because any sort of control, especially as like musicians, freelancers, I know we got such like that bad stigma for starving artist lifestyle and oh, you have to say yes to everything because you never know when your next paycheck is going to come, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with that. That's so stressful. Like, I don't want to live in a constant state of anxiety. I would rather have some sort of control over my income and being able to generate money for myself and know that, oh, I have this like audience full of people that really love what I do and they support me, and if I go announce, oh, this thing is for sale, I'm going to get sales. So that is more on the marketing side of things, taking things into your own hands.
This is awesome. Just like as you say, the public deals with um, press, and it's pretty much a gatekeeping
Mhm.
situation. They decide if they want to write a critique. They decide if they want to publish about your new album, but you're taking things into your own hand, and that is such a great thing. Now we have the social media. So tell us a little bit about the different types and platforms of social media. I think there's so many out there. There's TikTok. There some people tweet. Some people use Instagram. Do you specialize in one thing, or what do you usually tell musicians when they are just starting to learn about marketing themselves?
Ooh, yeah, social media platforms. There's so many, right? I mean, the big ones are going to be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, really. Yes, of course, there's other ones. Yeah, there's Twitter, there's YouTube, there's Pinterest. However, YouTube and Pinterest honestly are more so search engines, right? Like if you think about what you're going to use YouTube for, you're going to go on there and be like, how do I get this wine stain out of my carpet? It's usually people are using those more as a search engine versus an actual social media platform where you can go connect with other people and really develop community. So the social media platforms that I generally think of that are going to be kind of the standards: Facebook, Instagram, and now we have TikTok. So those are going to be your platforms. I always recommend when you're looking at these, choose what feels best for you. I'm definitely an Instagram person. Like I do have I have Facebook, I have a Facebook page, I have a Facebook group, I have a TikTok, right? But I'm definitely an Instagram person. That's where I spend most of my internet time. But also I'm very visual and I love aesthetics and things that look beautiful. So of course, that lends itself to Instagram. That's literally what it's for, right? But if you are someone where you don't really like taking a lot of photos, you're not maybe not a visual person, you would prefer to read things or type things out, type posts out, then probably Facebook. So really think about what your natural strengths and likes and dislikes are and pick whichever platform is going to work the best for that. But other side of this is also, where is your audience? Because if you are trying to reach, say, our demographic, younger, millennials, Gen Z, whatever, whatever, yeah, probably Instagram, TikTok. If you're trying to reach, let's say, adult learners, or an older demographic that would be coming to most classical concerts now, yeah, they're probably going to be on Facebook. So we also need to take that into consideration as well, right? Like if you're trying to reach the typical, like, older demographic, yeah, probably they're probably not scrolling TikTok. So probably not going to be beneficial to be on that. So yeah, kind of picking that based on those two things is helpful and what I usually recommend.
So for performance musicians, I think it's maybe a little easier to picture who your audiences are because you think that might be, someone who might be wanting to learn from you, your students, the families of your students, or your audience who come to your concert. But for conductors, we don't really have an audience because we don't make sound in that sense. Unless you have your own ensemble, then you cultivate your community. A lot of the beginning or young conductors, we don't really have our ensemble. For for us, what would you recommend to start? Like, do you still think about community building communities first or branding yourself first?
Well, for conductors, this is a very good question. And the answer is, I mean, you're gonna need both. But you guys are still going to have an audience if you think about it. Like, okay, cool. Maybe we want to do some guest spots with different orchestras, blah blah blah. Cool. So your people that you're trying to look for are going to be other musicians, people who are running these other orchestras and making connections with those people, right? And if we think about it, when we're thinking about, I'm a big picture thinker. So thinking about going to, like, cool, I'm pitching myself to do a guest spot with this orchestra, or I know that I want to post and be like, hey, I'm now booking for 2024 guest residencies, whatever, whatever, right? Like, if you know somebody, like we've talked before, I know who you are. I've been following your stuff. I'm over here supporting you, right? So when I come over and I'm like, "Hey, like, I would love to come on your podcast and talk about whatever, whatever. Like, would any of this be helpful for your people?" You're gonna be a lot more likely to say yes to that because you know me, we've talked before, right? Versus if it's just like Joe Schmo down the street who doesn't even follow you on Instagram. You've never had a conversation with them. You've never vetted them. You don't know if they even know what they're doing or talking about. Like, you're gonna have to think about that, right? You're gonna have to go, like, maybe look at their stuff, see what they do, find out who they are, blah, blah, blah. So the power of social media is thinking with that big picture, what are the opportunities that you want to start creating for yourself, right? What orchestras do you want to go conduct at? What festivals do you want to conduct at? What universities and schools do you want to be doing guest residencies at? Start using whatever social media platform it is to make those connections. Who are the decision makers there? Start following them, start developing that relationship. It's just like in real life, right? How we would, like, text a friend every few days, like, hey, what's up? How are you? It's like when they put up a post, like it and leave a thoughtful and an engaging comment. So you're starting to build those relationships. So yes, by doing this, you are also building your community. And it is really helpful to have a community and to have an audience, because then, kind of like we were talking about before, that's something you can leverage for things as well, right? I literally just did a consult with an artist series when I was in Florida, actually, and they book new artists to come in, do concerts, blah blah blah. One of the things that they want to know is, what's your social media audience look like? Are you going to be able to help us promote that and sell tickets as well? So that is going to make you a lot more valuable to all these places as well. If you already have a built-in audience and people that are following you, like, yes, be strategic about who we're connecting with and who we're building those relationships with. And eventually, maybe we can turn those into some opportunities. But also, the more people we have in your audience, the more beneficial that is, because then that gives you leverage for, you can now help promote things as well. So, answer is both.
I know that was like a really kind of vague and general question, but I know we are going to talk about building your community, and a lot of people who come to social media maybe later, that as the beginning of Instagram, would feel that okay, it's much harder for them to gain a big number of followers, or you have to always fight with the algorithm. It's ever changing. You just learn one trick, you Google all the tricks, and then now they change. So, what's your strategy and your advice for building a community and having like a really meaningful connection on social media?
I love this question so much. So, first of all, here's my little like mom talk for everyone. Stop worrying about the algorithm. Like, exactly like you said, it is going to change pretty much every day. It just is what it is. So, the number one thing that you need to know about the algorithm, this is something that has stayed consistent as long as I've been studying the algorithm and all of these things, which is, God, like 14 years now, way too long. One of the things that has always stayed consistent is, one of the top things the algorithm takes into consideration is your relationship with the other account. Okay, so let's say if we're on Instagram and every single post you put up, I'm liking it, I'm leaving a comment on it, I'm watching your stories every single time you put a story up, I'm, sending the heart emoji back and blah, blah, blah. That is signaling to Instagram or whatever platform, hey, they have a relationship. Cool, right? So then when you go put a post up, even if it gets 0 likes, 0 comments, even if you have, like 10 followers, they are still going to put your post in front of me, because we've already signaled to the algorithm we have a relationship. So, that is the most important thing that you want to focus on when you are building your community on social media, is really actually genuinely building those relationships, right? So, showing up and when they put up a new post, showing up and liking it and leaving a thoughtful and engaging comment when they're posting stories, watching their stories and replying to them, or using the little emoji react thing to it. Because the more you do that, the more that you are engaging with this other account, the more you're signaling to the algorithm, hey, we have a relationship. And then the more the algorithm is going to show your things to the other account, because you have that relationship with each other. So, novel idea, social media is intended for you to be social. And so I also want to point out, though, because I know a lot of people, like, I'm introverted, okay? I'm not one of those people that like would be like, "Oh, I get to go to this big networking event, talk to all these people, blah blah blah." Like, no, that I would much rather stay home, okay? So, social media, I love it because I think that even for us introverts, it gives us this really awesome opportunity to connect with people. Like, if it wasn't for Instagram, we probably never would have met otherwise. And it gives you this
Yeah,
really cool opportunity to meet with and connect with people who have similar interests and similar likes from literally around the world that you never could have met. And you don't have to worry about, the like, oh my God, what am I going to wear? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you're literally behind a screen. It's fine. You just type it out. It doesn't need to feel like fake or like you're forcing it, whatever. Like, if a comment if it's starting to feel like, "Oh, I'm trying to, like, I have to think about something, and what do I say here, and blah, blah, blah," like, no, you don't even wanna have to think about it. You just wanna do something that's very natural, right? Like, I don't know, maybe you posted a picture of, you working at your desk and you have a candle on your desk. I'm like, "Oh my god, that candle looks so cute. Like, where'd you get it from?" You know? Like, it doesn't need to be groundbreaking, but just something that's like, "Hey, I'm genuinely interested in this," you know, and being authentic and being genuine. You don't need to try to force it. Don't do anything like that. You just genuinely ask about something that you're curious in and open up that conversation.
So I know you said, even if you don't get a lot of likes or a lot of followers, even if you have good relationship or interactions with another account, it's still good. But I have to say, sometimes it's very frustrating or a little sad when you post something that you really like, and there's a very few likes or like very few people saw it. Um, I know this is probably the wrong question to ask, but I think it's a human nature thing. Like, so when we are not looking at those numbers, how do we know if we're doing the right thing or if we're being successful, if we're on the right track? I know this is totally wrong. We don't want to look at numbers, but it can be frustrating or not knowing if you're really doing it or like making it.
Yeah, and okay, so this is a multifaceted question. So the first thing that I'm gonna say, because I know it does get frustrating, like it's happened to all of us, right? We just put a lot of effort and energy into making this real or whatever, and we're super excited about it. We hit post and then it's just crickets, you know, or like what did I do?
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean we have literally all been there. But the thing that I always like to say to my clients when this is coming up is, yes, first, let's just acknowledge and validate it is frustrating. That is a completely normal feeling. Everybody goes through it, but also we all know with literally anything in life, like you have to put in the work first before you see results, right? It's just it is how it is with literally everything. So I always will pose the question, if you were getting all of the likes and all the comments and sales and whatever that you're hoping for by using Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is, right? If you were getting all of these results that you're hoping for right now, would this still be an issue? Would you still be feeling frustrated by this right now, right? And I every single time the answer is well obviously no. Like if I was getting those the results and the goals that I'm looking for right now, I wouldn't care that this post got one like or whatever, right? So it's just really having to remind yourself that it is a longer game, you know, and also reminding ourselves like we have just so conditioned ourselves for instant gratification now, right? With us, especially all of these social media platforms and the fact that now we can go like Google something and have all of this information right immediately at our fingertips. Like the world was not always this way, you know? Like I remember back in the day sitting with my freaking dial-up internet and all of the AOL sounds and blah, 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 you know, like you're sitting there for freaking 20 minutes before you can try to like just get online, you know, but now everything is so like instant gratification. So just really having to kind of remind our brains like actually that's not really how the world works generally.
You know?
So like it's okay to take a breath, take a beat and realize that this is a longer term strategy. This is a longer game. Overnight success is not a thing. Like, yes, I need to put in my dues, if you will, put the work in, put the effort in, and then eventually it will begin paying off. So there's my little pep talk on that. But now let's talk about the numbers and, you know, how do we even know if we're doing this right? Blah, blah, blah. So obviously for me with my agency, when we're doing social media management, like if we're not getting people results, we get fired, you know, or it's like if I don't know what's working and what's not working, like that's a problem, you know, we need to know what is working and what is not working. So that way, if something isn't working, we can stop using that and try something else, right? So the numbers, I will say, don't drive yourself crazy over them. We all know how things vary and fluctuate on Instagram, But if you do want to look at your numbers just to give yourself an idea for things, here's a couple little metrics that I usually use as, rules of thumb, if you will, for myself. If you go into your analytics and you sort your things by, let's say, the highest liked, generally likes are going to indicate people liking that image. And I'm talking about on Instagram for specifically. So if you go and you sort all your posts, like let's say the last year, sort by the most liked, take a look at the pictures that are in those that top category. Is there a theme there? Are they, maybe they're just like random selfies that you took and people really love when you post those, or maybe they're all the more professional photos that you had, or whatever it is. Like, look for the theme, look for the pattern, because that's going to give you a good indicator of the type of images that your audiences are really liking from you and that they're wanting more of. The next thing that you could sort by and look for is going to be top comments. That's going to correspond to your caption. So then I would look at, all of those posts that are in the, got the most amount of comments. What were you talking about in those? Were you saying something that was really thought provoking? Were you sharing, maybe you have a hot take on something and you don't agree with, oh, everybody says this one thing, but actually I think blah, 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 right? Maybe it was something like that that you posted. Maybe it was just, I don't know, like a photo dump. Who knows? Whatever it was, like look for the correlation and the patterns between those, because that's going to give you a good indicator of what really resonated with your people, what they really enjoyed hearing about from you, what you can try to lean into more for that. Um, so those are a couple like specific measurables for you to look at for helping you lean into those things more. But then if we look at, obviously I preface that with like, don't kill yourself over the numbers. So I'm definitely not saying, like I would not recommend for an individual to go in and be looking at, every single post and monitoring, how many likes, how many reach and blah, blah. Like you will drive yourself insane. Like don't do it. Don't get yourself caught up in that. What I personally use and recommend and what I tell all of my clients, the general, just kind of like skimming, not going too in depth, not looking at, oh, how many hashtag views did this get, blah, blah, blah. The, sane way of doing this is, am I getting DMs? That's literally it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. I want to know if people feel comfortable enough and like they relate to me enough that they're comfortable to send me a DM. Are they replying to my stories? If I ask a question in my stories, are people DMing me back? If I'm leaving comments on people's things, are they DMing me and maybe asking me a question or whatever, whatever, because in order to send somebody a DM, you really do have to, you're not gonna just DM anyone. It kind of goes back to that like introvert thing, It's like to be able to walk up to somebody at the party and make the first move and say hello, like that that takes a little bit. That takes a little bit of thought and planning, and people have to really like feel that point of relation or connection to be able to take that step. That's a pretty big ask, actually, for people to just send you a DM. So that is generally my rule of thumb, and what I'm paying attention to is, am I getting DMs? Did I get a DM today? Am I like having conversations with people? Cool. If I am, great. You're doing a good job.
I love those tips and they are really measurable. Thank you so much for that. And then as you say, don't drive yourself crazy on numbers. Of course, sometimes sad, like when you post something that you really like, it's like 5 likes. That can be saddening, but as I say, like in reactions and interactions or engagement are much more important. So when you talk about this as a longer term game, and usually when you are talking about being strategic on cultivating the online community, how long do you look at? Like, what kind of plan do you do it? Like 3 months, and like what are some maybe goals or some strategies that we can think about or even use in our community building?
So for me, kind of how I mentioned earlier with building these relationships for, let's say, potential opportunities that you want to be able to create for yourself, that is I like to go into things with the end goal in mind. So let's say maybe your goal for the rest of this year is you really want to start booking more university guest residencies, right? I would challenge you to sit down, go make a list of, I don't know, let's say 50 universities that you're like, cool, I would love to go present at these schools. Okay, awesome. Now go look through those universities, who's doing the conducting program, or like for me, who's in charge of the flute studio, whatever, like who's the decision maker, right? We're getting back to that. Then go find them on your social media platform and begin building that relationship. Now, as we all know, with relationships, just like in real life, with friendships or romantic relationships, any type of relationship, they're all going to be different and they're all going to be on different timelines. You might meet those people that you just immediately like have a really strong connection with and really hit it off, and the relationship progresses a lot faster versus some other people, maybe they're a bit more standoffish, or maybe they're just not on social media as often, so that might take a little bit longer to develop that relationship. So I don't necessarily think of it in terms of time, like give it 3 months and then pitch to them or something. Usually I do it in terms of interactions. I want to have had at least 10 interactions with somebody, usually in my DMs. I want to, going back and forth, whatever. Like, yeah, cool, that's great if we can have some comments on each other's posts, whatever, whatever. But like, I really ideally would like it to be at least 10 interactions with each other in DM. So going back and forth, having that conversation, getting to know each other, because first of all, we want to make sure that this is going to be a good fit for both of you. Maybe you guys have completely different philosophies, and if you were to go in and teach something to their students, what you're saying is going to be completely contradictory to what they're saying. Like, that's probably not going to be a great a great situation. So it's on both ends. We want to make sure that the relationship, and it's going to be mutually beneficial and complementary. So after you're doing that, it's just kind of I know this isn't a very black and white answer, but using your intuition on where is that relationship at right now. Do you feel comfortable enough with them to go in and be like, hey, I know obviously, like, I really vibe with your ideas, and would really love to support however I can. I'm actually booking right now for my guest residencies for next year. Is that something that you guys would be open to? Like, I'd be so thrilled to come help your students, blah, 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 right? You just kind of, you have to use that gut feeling on like, ooh, is it ready? Is it not ready? And then yes, get out there and pitch yourself, because that's the whole thing. Going back to what we talked about in the very beginning, I view marketing more as like, how can I take things more into my own hands? We don't want to get in that space where we're on social media and we're doom scrolling and we're seeing all of these other people, like, oh my God, so and so got this really cool opportunity, and so is doing this thing with this orchestra, and blah, blah, blah. Like, why can't that be me? Yeah, well, guess what? It can be you. Go freaking ask for it. Like, it really is that simple. Like, I know that there are probably so many people listening to this right now that are like, no, it's not that simple, Nicole, but like, really it is. It is. We get in our own heads and we get in our own way like 99% of the time. It's just our own shit getting in the way. So just really ask for it, okay? But develop the relationship first, because again, like we talked about earlier, when you actually know somebody and you have that relationship, it's a lot easier to get a yes versus if you don't know somebody, and somebody's coming in hot asking you for a favor and they don't even like follow you. It's like, what? Like, oh, get out of here. I don't know you. So just being intentional about developing those relationships first.
I really love what you just said. I remember when I was doing my master's in conducting, and one of the rules that my teacher, Mark Gibson at CCM, gave us was, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yep.
Um, if you ask, you might not get it, but if you don't ask, it's guaranteed you won't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was the first half of my interview with Nicole Riccardo, and stay tuned because we have a lot of great things that we are going to share with you for the second half. Come back next week and find out more. Bye for now.